IISc was also selected as an institution of eminence in the first batch sometime earlier this year, and MHRD has brought out a program which you must be reading about, and we have been selected. This will allow us to get some additional money, about 1,000 crores of money in the next 5 years, provided we can match it. And that is where help from alumni comes in, because we need to match those funds, and we will need support to be able to match the 1,000 crores to be able to get all of it. And of course, what it also gives us a certain amount of autonomy. IISc has always assumed a lot of autonomy, but this will give us a few more items of autonomy which will make our operations much more easier. I'm going to show you now the research productivity over the last, ever since Web of Science began to keep the data. Many of your papers would be counted here. So the 33,427 documents reported in Web of Science as the output of IISc since the data was being kept. Almost 500,000, more than 500,000 citations have been recorded of IISc papers. 209 is the H index, and 12,000 publications have come out in the last 5 years. So we do maintain about 2,500 publications per year. And as I already mentioned, 400 PhDs have come out in the last year. And we want to hit the target of 1 PhD per faculty per year. Today, if you look at a US university, producing this many PhDs will not allow them to get jobs. But India needs the people, needs PhDs to be able to staff the industry and to be able to staff the growing number of faculty vacancies. Just to give you an idea of where IISc stands on these three metrics, citations, publications, H index, we are number one. If you go around, the length of the arc shows the number. TIFR is next, IIT Kharagpur is next, and IIT Delhi around to PGI Chandigarh. So we are number one in all the three metrics of citations, publication, H index. This is the cumulative number, that is total number of publications. As I already said, in the last 10 years, other institutions have begun to do very well. They're catching up on the per year numbers, so we have to keep on stepping harder every year. I'm sure alumni are interested in the kind of finances IISc has. These are 2 consecutive years, 2016-17 and 17-18. The blue box shows the money we get directly from MHRD, which pays for our salaries, for our electricity and water, and sort of the essentials. The orange box shows the amount of money our faculty raise from research projects, from DST, DBT, DRDO, and so on and so forth. This is the research projects. This portion out here, these 3 boxes out here, show the amount of, okay, so I'll just give you some numbers here. 825 crores expenditure in the previous year, and 953 expenditure, sorry, in the past year, 16-17, in the 17-18 year, it was 953 crores, okay? So this money that we are showing you here is the money that we raise from non-government resources, okay? So about 120 crores or so is coming from non-government resources, still about 10%. And this is the money that we would like to grow by support from alumni and other donors. This purple box shows support from donors like Bosch and Data Trust, Pratiksha Trust, Divicha and Grantham Foundations. These contain industry projects. These contain SID, I'll talk about this a bit later, and consultancy project. We have recently established about 3 years back, just around the 2015 Global Alumni Conference, an office called ODAA, which Professor Rangarajan briefly mentioned, Office of Development and Alumni Affairs. This office has been going out and trying to raise funds of all sorts, whether it's alumni donations or philanthropy funds from high net income people and from industry CSR. So some of this money which you see here in light gray has come from there. It's still quite modest, but I'll tell you more about it a bit later. It's important to understand that this number, in yellow, is the money we raise from tuitions and from other small collections of the institute. IISc still is an institution which, unlike the American institutions, does not raise much money from tuitions. Anybody who comes should be able to study, not have to pay very much. Since a large amount of people who come here come to do research, often they have given up lucrative jobs to come here, we cannot charge them very high tuitions. So we really need to increase the amount of money we are able to raise from other ways rather than increase tuitions. Again, this gives you an idea of the growth in the publications. Journal publications have been going up. The conference publications are important in some fields like computer science. It's also been going up. And we are publishing about 2,500 papers both journal and public and the conference each year, roughly. As I already mentioned, NIRF has ranked us as #1. We would like to improve our rankings globally as well. Under the Institution of Eminence umbrella, we have been asked to enter the top 100 in some time. We've already entered top 100 in some metrics, of course not the overall rankings. We are in the top 100 in world reputation rankings in time and higher education. We are in top 100 in engineering and technology in this year, and we are 13 and 29 respectively in emerging economies and in Asia. In the QS rankings, we are actually #2 in citations per faculty. Now, citations per faculty is a metric which you may or may not want to consider, but we are #1 there, #2 there. We are actually ahead of Harvard and Caltech in that number, and 51 to 100 in material science and 51 in Asia. And I already mentioned Institution of Eminence, which is of course to some extent based upon our rankings, and of course our proposal is going to give us 1,000 crores over the next 5 years, and we are just about to launch it. We're just launching it as we speak. Faculty awards and honors, we are proud to say that IISc has the most decorated faculty in the country. If you look at the cumulative awards earned by all the faculty retired or present, we have 2 Bharat Ratnas, 3 Padma Vibhushans, and so on and so forth. 95 Bhatnagar awards. We are nearing a century mark there. The current faculty has many accolades from the academies, from the Academy of Sciences, INSA, National Academy of Sciences, and the Engineering Academy of India. So these are the number of people who have these academic fellowships within the country. We would like to increase our international footprint as well. So among the international awards, 5 Infosys Prize winners, 9 IEEE fellows, and 30 fellows of the World Academy of Sciences. These numbers are slated to increase as we work harder. Having given you a glimpse of the numbers, how we are performing, what we are doing in terms of the number of publications and all, I'll give you a glimpse of the research that happens in IISc. I'm sure many of you have participated in this sort of work. And I'm going to organize this presentation in a particular way, which some of you may see different from what we did last time. As you all know, progress in science occurs by small incremental steps. Okay? We can represent the 2,000 papers that come out every year by these arrows in multiple dimensions. Each professor is given the freedom to do whatever he or she wants. And there's no reason for them why they need to do something because somebody tells them to do that. But then, of course, although you publish 2,500 papers every year, you also want to see what the impact of that work is on society, on the industry. We began to analyze our publications, analyze our professors' work carefully. We said, let's look for alignment. Is some of the work in the institution aligned in certain directions? For example, look at arrows which seem to point in a similar direction. We're calling them themes, research themes. I'll give some examples of research themes. This has done 2 things. First of all, is help us recognize that we do have strengths in some areas, which you will see. Also, it's helped us recognize where we lack faculty. So if you want to strengthen an area, you now recognize where the area, which areas you can actually enable further, and thereby you can hire more faculty in them. Okay? So this is area-based analysis rather than department-based analysis. Cancer research. We realize that we have a lot of work going on in cancer research. People working on gliomas, or understanding how gliomas become stronger and how to control them. DNA repair is an important phenomenon. If cells, the DNA repair mechanism goes awry, they develop cancer. If cancer cells have a DNA repair problem, then it can be used to kill them. So DNA repair is an area which our faculty is working on. Understanding metastasis, another professor works on metastasis. Again, DNA repair, this time DNA repair being used to understand how lack of DNA repair results in cancer growth. And of course, oral cancer and differential protein synthesis as a key for determining various cancers. So several professors are working in an unrelated way, in a non-collaborative way in cancer research, and we want to enable that. Quantum technologies. Under the IOE program, we are projecting quantum technologies as one of our thrust areas. So one professor is working on algorithms, quantum algorithms. Another one is working on quantum processors. Another one is working on how do you build quantum circuits, so the physics, the new physics required in quantum optics and acoustics to interconnect these processors to make quantum circuits. Brain computation and data science is a relatively new theme in our institute. In electrical engineer, we find the electrical engineers and neuroscientists often work together very well. So this is electrical engineer and a neuroscientist working on understanding how people pay attention to objects in a large array of objects using signal processing theory. The technique of diffusion MRI is used to map the interconnections in the brain. And diffusion MRI is a very computationally intensive technique which our faculty has been able to make much faster. Understanding signal processing in the brain, certain processes are multiplicative rather than additive, which has an impact. Understanding why in the brain the same function is performed by two different elements, and what the biology of that is and what the reason for that is. Understanding causality, it's often hard to understand in a complex system as a brain what causes what. So there's a computer scientist working on causality. So this area, although we never recognized it as an area, was enabled by a grant from Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, a major grant. I'll talk more about it later, through his trust called the Pratiksha Trust. And this trust has not only supported a brain research initiative, it's also supporting three chair professorships, the postdoctoral fellowships, which have helped us strengthen this area in the institute. Cybersecurity, with the increasing deployment of information technology and the upcoming Internet of Things, it's very important to ensure that our systems are secure. So one professor in computer science is working on what is called multi-party computation, and she's had some breakthrough results in that. Another one is working on something called malleable codes. If somebody disturbs your information sent over the internet, how do you find out the information has been disturbed, and how do you recover that? It's sort of extension of error control coding. If you want to control the entry of devices into your institute or into your industry, what techniques are used to ensure the devices can enter the premises, but they will be secure, they will not disturb your security. And finally, we are heading towards an era where we will have a lot of deployment of information technology, Internet of Things in our cities. What are the issues of cybersecurity for these systems? This is being done in the Robert Bosch Center. Sensors. The entire Internet of Things area will not be there unless there are sensors. Sensors connect the information technology to the physical world. So we realized when we looked at this that many people in the institute are working on sensors. So Professor Kian Bhatt and Rudra Pratap are working on pressure and gas sensors, and in fact the pressure sensors have been taken by HAL for the advanced light helicopter. This is intracranial pressure monitors being developed also in the same department for monitoring the pressure in brains of people who have had head injuries to be able to understand what's happening in there. Low-cost paper-based sensors for detecting the presence of lipase, which if there is too much of, it is it's a poor indication for the pancreas dysfunction. Sensors for polluted water, because this area had a lot of agriculture in it many years back. There are nitrates in the water, and if you simply drill for water and consume it, it's not good for you. You want to be able to sense whether nitrates are present in the borewell water. These are again certain other kinds of sensors called fiber Bragg grating sensors for detecting certain biomarkers. So again, you can see there's a lot of collaborative work going on here between engineers and physicists and so on, and chemists. Visual analytics. With the increase in the deployment of cameras all over the world and the increase in visual processing, visual analytics becomes a very important area. So Professor Vijay Natarajan, a computer scientist, is working with Professor Nadu Sumachandra, a biochemist, on a technique for a computational technique for understanding channels and proteins, which and you can also visualize these channels and proteins. This is, as we all know, deep neural networks have become very popular nowadays, and this professor is trying to understand why small changes in the input can cause the neural network to be completely thrown off, and understanding why it happens is what this person researches on. Making NMR spectroscopy much faster, understanding how the development of the brain in India is different from the Caucasian brain through to studying MRI images. This is techniques for reconstructing 3D images from two-dimensional images, and apparently this has become a commercial product and an open source package. And novel algorithms for multimodal image retrieval. Suppose you have a sketch of a suspect and you have a number of photographs. How do you identify the photograph that matches the sketch? It's apparently a challenging problem, and people are working on that. So again, visual analytics is an area which we find is very sort of widespread around the campus. Finally, we realized as we looked at these themes, biomedical systems and devices, many people are working on that. IoT devices for monitoring babies, biomaterials for orthopedics, smart catheters for blocking abnormal signals in veins, technology and tools for diabetics. This is a insulin delivery mechanism for automatic delivery of insulin based upon automatic measurements being made of the glucose levels. And this is a very interesting Bhatnagar Award winning work which is creating these nano motors which when put into the human body can be used to deliver drugs and to measure properties of flow within the body. Okay, I've given an idea of several things we could identify. I'm sure there are many more things waiting there to identify. You do them as we go along. It will help us show our impact and also identify faculty shortages. You can also have the arrows aligned together. If arrows align together rather than simply are parallel, you can create even more impact. This means people work together on large collaborative projects. I'll give you some samples of that. Center for Brain Research has been created with a 225 crore grant from Mr. and Mrs. Krishnan. This center has just started a 10,000 person study of people in rural Karnataka, and this is called a SANSCOG study, and they are now going to track the development of the brain, development of their brain function over I think 20 or 30 years time frame. And the idea of this center is to understand how the brain ages and how disease like dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's develop. This group has also started a Genome India initiative. So for the first time, we will have 1,000 people in India being completely screened for their genome. And that will help us understand how our genome may be different or similar to that around the world and what impact it may have on medical care. Chris Gopalakrishnan is also going to fund an extremely modern building which will house Center for Brain Research. The building's plans are ready, 50 crore grant from them, and the building is going to be on the IISc campus, and the construction is starting as we speak. In addition to this generous grant, he's given 30 crores for creating 3 chairs. Now these are the current holders of these chairs, Shihab Sama from University of Maryland, Konawar from Penn State, and Papa Matthew from Columbia. And these people come regularly and they interact with our faculty. They leave a footprint here, and several young investigators from our faculty are working on problems along with them, thereby making an extremely rich ecosystem for brain research in the institute. And this is an initiative that started about 6-7 years back, and we strengthened it. I think it's a unique initiative in the country. 10 years back, Robert Bosch Foundation gave a philanthropic grant to IISc to start a new center in the area of cyber-physical systems. Cyber-physical systems essentially are the applications which run on IoT. And so all these smart cities, smart water, smart energy, smart traffic are all examples of CPS. So this center is working on such problems. This center has recently signed an MOU with the Urban Development Ministry to create an open source platform for sharing data in cities, like sharing water, electricity, air pollution data on a common platform. This is being contributed by this center. Custom built walking robots using deep enforcement learning for automatically learning the gait of the robot, and autonomous drones and vehicles. So this is a very interesting center where many young people work, and very enjoyable and very current, exciting work. Again, about 10 years back, the Devecha family in the US and the Grantham Foundation in the UK have funded a Center for Climate Change. This center has become the focal point for Future Earth, which is the South Asia initiative for climate change, and also recently something called Water Future. And not only is the center doing a lot of basic research in climate change, it's also engaging with the government So it is giving inputs for decarbonization of the Indian power sector. It meets with honorable members of parliament, and it creates awareness amongst them for climate change. And recently they have just launched a conference next year for the Sustainable Water Future with 1,000 participants, and they'll be the focal point of that conference next year. Another collaborative effort amongst several faculty members in the institute is the National Center for Combustion Research, funded by BSc SERB in IISc and IIT Madras. This project is over now. Not only did it do a lot of basic research in combustion, automation, bioenergy, it also did a lot of work with the industry. Ocean mixing of monsoons. Monsoons are very important for our country. This is a collaborative project between India and the US. Many partners from India, many partners from the US. They're trying to understand, this diagram here shows, the picture here shows the blue areas are fresh water. That is, this is the oceans where there's fresh water on the top, those are the Indian rivers. And where it's dark, it's more saline. They're trying to understand how this fresh water and salinity in the oceans affects the monsoons. And they have lots of buoys, and they have missions which go out on the ocean and make measurements, and then they do a lot of modeling to understand the impact of salinity on the monsoons. Finally, this is a project funded by the BrahMos Aerospace, which is an Indo-Russian program to develop a hypersonic engine for probably a future platform which the BrahMos may develop. Having spoken about some examples of research themes in the institute, contributions from our faculty, and large research programs, I'll now talk about the Industry Connect. So in 1995, we launched a center called Society for Innovation and Development. This is a society which is not really part of IISc, it's outside IISc. IISc sort of runs it. I'm on the board of that. I'm the chairman of the board. And then our professors essentially run the society. We've been working over the last 20 years, 23 years, on interacting with a wide variety of industry in various ways. And now, in addition to interacting with the industry for bringing in research programs, this society also runs our incubation program. Not only do we incubate technology coming out of IISc, we also incubate technology coming from anybody who wants to work with our professors. And now we are in the process of developing a 140,000 square feet innovation hub funded by the government, which is the planning is ready. We should be able to start the construction in a few months' time. So some recent initiatives with Tata Consultancy Services. We have a big MOU on Internet of Things. General Electric, we have an MOU on materials engineering and big data. Bosch, I've already mentioned earlier. Microsoft, Volvo, you can see they're interested in autonomous navigation. Qualcomm is interested in 5G technologies. And Faurecia, which is a company which develops automotive parts in France, they have just come to us and they're interested in AI, industrial design, and autonomous vehicles. It so happens in IISc, although we do basic research, sometimes the basic research gets taken all the way to products. I'm going to give 4 examples of that. This is the pressure transducer developed by our Nanoscience and Engineering Center, which actually has been delivered to HAL for use in the Advanced Light Helicopter and the LCA. This is nitrous oxide sensor given to ISRO. This is the solid state neutron sensor given to the Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research. And this is the ultracapacitor developed in IISc, which is now powering lanterns and all, which are given to young children in villages to allow them to study. Again, a lot of science, some science in IISc already has begun to go into patents and startups. I'm going to give some examples of that. So we began our patenting ecosystem about 10 years back, and it's picking up a lot now. Today we are filing about 50 patents, and about 10 or 12 patents. The blue part of the line shows the patents that have been granted. The red part shows the patents that have been filed. So about 50 patents are being filed every year, and 10 or 12 are getting granted every year. This is the profile of startups that have come out of IISc in the last decade or so. So around 2000, we began a startup ecosystem. There were 1 or 2. The last 3 years, suddenly we have seen a jump. We have started 16 startups in the last 3 years in a whole variety of areas. And the areas are quite, quite broad: biotech, medical devices, aeronautics, materials, mobility, renewable energy, agri-tech, space tech, and electronics computing. Some recent startups, take some examples. Pathshod, which is a startup based upon a PhD thesis of a professor, of a student of a professor in nanoscience. It allows you to measure 8 different biomarkers related to diabetes on one device. This is a water cleaning device which doesn't waste any water, low in electricity. It takes dirty water, it makes it clean, also removes fluoride and arsenic. This is an endoscopy training device developed by a computer scientist, a mechanical engineer. This is also a company now. This is a company coming out of our Center for Product Design and Manufacturing, which is creating all sorts of technologies for agriculture. And the most recent startup is one started by the current chairman of molecular biophysics, which is to develop influenza vaccine in a completely different way, which allows a vaccine to have a much broader spectrum and also be able to last for many years, MinVax. This is the current status of the open water startup. They have now built a much larger unit, and they've got several awards from various international agencies. This is the status of the Sickle Innovation Startup in agriculture. Today they have fruit harvesting solution, a smart drying solution, a color grading solution, and they actually begun to make some profit as well. Pathshod has, they've launched their product, they won many awards, and the Tata Trusts are using their product now to do a lot of screening in various states of the country, UP and Bengal to begin with, Uttarakhand and Chhattisgarh very soon. So this is already being deployed in medical care around the country. This is the last slide on this in this section. You can see that many startups like MinVax and Open Water, Biosynth, Shanmukha, and Equine Biotech and Insight have all come from basic scientists, the biologists or physicists. Other two mentioned out here are from engineering professors. Okay, I have concluded my section on the basic research that we do and the way it is having impact on the industry and on startups. I'll now talk about some of the operational initiatives that we have taken in the last 4 or 5 years. We've taken several academic initiatives to make our academics stronger. First of all, I already mentioned about the new division of interdisciplinary research, where we are focusing a lot of problem-oriented work. We have introduced the tenure system about 7 or 8 years back. We strengthened the tenure system recently to make it completely peer-reviewed, and to be able to counter the delay it takes young professors to get funding from the government. We've actually begun to give last startup grants so that they can begin their work almost as soon as they join the institute. We have created other incentives like endowed chairs, the young investigator positions. This is an area where the alumni could help us a lot in creating other chairs and positions to incentivize high-performing faculty of the institute. We began another initiative about 2 years back. Many universities around the world have a cycle of peer reviews from around the world of their academic programs. We began that 2 years back. My own division was reviewed, I think, in 2017, November, right? And aerospace department was reviewed a little later. We'll soon have a review of the biosciences division. So a cycle of 5 years, we want to have all our centers, all our divisions reviewed, so that after that, again, the review can be repeated. That way, we get international experts from around the world coming and giving us, spending about 3 or 4 days with us, understanding what we do and giving us feedback and advice. We also began for the first time an MD-PhD program, along with CMC Vellore. A person doing an MD in CMC can register in IISC for a PhD, and for the first time there's an MD-PhD program in the country. Many infrastructure improvements have come. We have recently installed a new transformer for giving us power in our institute, which was very old, 2 megawatt diesel generator sets. All the street lights are now LED. We have installed a certain amount of power, solar power plants as well, and we have made our entire power network smart. We're able to measure the power consumption down to the phase level in every building of the institute. And we are now maintaining our substations more professionally than we used to some years back. Telecom was a problem here when I started. We have now installed 4 to 5 locations, towers or 4 to 5 locations around the campus, thereby somewhat improving the coverage. The campus optical fiber is being expanded so that now most places in the campus will have Wi-Fi coverage. Okay. We have taken many steps to modernize administration. We have created a Development Alumni Affairs office. This is the office that created this series of alumni days and also is spearheading the fundraising for the institute. We have strengthened the International Relations office, where we now have an office of, we now have an International Relations officer. We created Digits, which is a campus digital campus information technology office, which is now taking care of all the information technology infrastructure needs of the institute, whether it is to make our entire operations on ERP, or whether it is to expand the Wi-Fi network in the campus. I'll tell you more about this a little later. We never had a formal placement office in the institute. We created one, and it had a major impact in terms of increasing the placement opportunities for our faculty. This is very important in the current context. We created a safety office. The safety officer is going around and auditing our campus safety. Unfortunately, the recent event took place before we could actually have full impact from this safety office. We have an HR consultant. So now when we hire our administrative officers, we're going to hire them in a way that industry may hire them. We're going to screen them properly. We're going to have them go through a group discussion process. We're going to have them trained in IIM Bangalore. Only then will they come to work in our offices. We have many policies that we have brought in: sexual harassment policy, academic integrity policy. Academic integrity policy. We have strengthened the faculty entrepreneurship policy. We have an investment policy in place, and we are doing a lot of meetings that we were doing with a lot of paper in a paperless manner. This project is important to report about. Soon you will find that the entire IISc administration is going to be on one platform. We went through a tendering process. We selected SAP to be our ERP, and Wipro is the implementer. We'll be running the entire platform on the cloud, and Digits, which I mentioned earlier, is the one that is doing all of this in record time. We hope to be able to go on stream in January in the first phase. Second phase will be launched in July. We have aimed to improve many amenities. We have created a professionally managed creche. We improve the sports facilities. Guest houses, if you are staying in CVH, you will probably find that it is much better managed than it was maybe a year or two back. We are removing all those V-shaped drains that you saw when you were students out here and putting concrete drains out there, which will also route our optical cables and power cables. And on top of that, we are going to put slabs which will make walking on those roads much more safer. And solids-based integration, segregation and management has also started some years back. We have created a shared GPS-based bicycle sharing system, which these two guys are riding, the students are riding. We are creating a new student amenities center, which I was hoping to launch before you all came, but it's still some ways, called Sarvam. Students here come, young people come, and they often have a lot of psychological problems. So we are expanding our counseling and support, and so on and so forth. We have made the main building disabled-friendly access. Publicity, again, 3 years back, we launched a magazine-style annual report of IISc called Kernel. The word kernel appears in many of our disciplines. Kernel stands for core, and we've already had 3 issues of Kernel, the most recent being this, and we sent it around to 500 faculty, 500 universities around the world, and thereby try to publicize what IISc does. We have a new contemporary website, iisc.ac.in. By the way, you'll find that IISc has a more contemporary name as well. It's not no longer iisc.yarnet.in, iisc.ac.in in conformance with the international standards. And I'll talk about it a bit later. We also begun an exercise for branding the institute. So several major construction programs have been completed. For example, a new apartment complexes for the faculty, a shopping complex, central annual facilities almost complete. A women's hostel block is under construction. The number of women is about 25% now. It's expected to grow to 30%. So we lack space for women students. The MRI building coming up. This is being supported by Siemens, and chemical sciences building is almost ready. It will be launched in about 6 months' time. New programs under construction is the Center for Brain Research. 50 crore building coming up on IISc campus. Innovation Hub is a 75 crore building, 140,000 square feet, also to come up on IISc campus. And the new interdisciplinary research division is going to have its own building to bring together all these different centers into one building called the New IDR building. It will come up behind the ECE department. Several other extension and renovations have been done. I won't spend time going over them in great detail. Chillakere campus, many of you know that IISc acquired Chillakere campus about 200 kilometers from here during its 2009 centenary year. In this campus, which is shown here, we have begun to do many initiatives. We are creating a HAL-funded skill development center. We will move the teachers training program into HAL skill development center. This center will also have skill development in electronics, aerospace, and mechanical engineering. Training programs in technologies being developed in IISc, testbed for solar research, climate change laboratory, water harvesting in a very big way. They've created 2 dams out there, and the dams often get filled when it rains, and it actually resulted in the borewells around the campus being much better outside the campus. And finally, we are now in the process of creating a water electrical network infrastructure on the campus to be able to see the next phase of growth. This campus probably is going to see real academic work only about 15-20 years from now. We're trying to focus on IISc campus, strengthening it. People who will come after me will have to now take up the job of making this an academic campus, a decade or more from now. Branding initiative. Most universities around the world create an identity for themselves and a brand for themselves. If you look at Caltech, Caltech has a seal, Caltech has their logo, and Caltech also defines how people should represent Caltech in all documents. UC Berkeley has a seal, UC Berkeley has a logo, and UC Berkeley ensures that all its faculty and students represent UC Berkeley properly. We are in the process of doing that as well. So IISc too needs a visual identity, which is universal and carefully worked out to represent the values and the aspirations of the institute. We want to make all our signboards, all our documents, all our presentations uniform. Signage, logo, letterheads, email templates, presentations will be made conformant to a certain standard. We want to increase the sense of ownership among the faculty and students and build an atmosphere of excitement at all levels. So with this in mind, we have started branding initiative, which took off earlier this year, and we made much progress on that. Today, there's a brand position in place, and we are now going to very soon look at visuals, which we'll evaluate, and hopefully in the next 3 months, we'll have all of that in place. A quick overview of the professional administration offices that we created. ODA has been doing remarkably well. We launched in 2015. We raised 157 crores of project grants and 25 crores of endowments, resulting in about 78 crores of input into operational funds over the last 3 years. About 25 crores money which we spend every year is coming from ODA's efforts. This has to grow a lot more. We need a lot more people. To get more people, we have to pay them salaries. So we need support from alumni to be able to, first of all, help us raise money, get us more contacts, and maybe create opportunities for us to strengthen this office as well. This office has also created an alumni portal. It creates reunions and fundraising and industry connections. Office of International Relations has also been strengthened. As a part of the IOE program, one of the initiatives that we're going to take is to make our international footprint much stronger. We'll have many initiatives for getting foreign faculty to work in IISc, many initiatives for postdoc. We'll have a postdoctoral program now, which we've never officially had, and we'll have many opportunities for our faculty and students to travel abroad. So this office is going to enable that. We have many initiatives with the US, joint regional supervision, UG exchange program, to add research opportunities, as in the case of the ocean and the Sirius program. UK, we have the water program with them, and energy research. And France has been a very long collaborator with India from about 25 to 30 years, centers in applied mathematics, high energy physics, water sciences. There's recently a Thales sponsored PhD